Gary is here for a very special purpose. Since 1980, he has been helping us with the memorial, and is very much as part of him as is part of us. And today, Gary wants to present us with the contribution to the completion of the memorial.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watch were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave? Oh, the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Hi, everybody. How's everybody today? So, thank you, Tom, and thank you, everybody here in Lansing, for having me today. Lieutenant Dan, yeah, I know. Life is like a box of chocolates. So, I'll never live that down. Forrest Gump is over 20 years old now, that movie. But, you know, I learned a lot from our Vietnam veterans. I had, especially back in the late 70s and early 80s, from the Vietnam veterans in my family, on my wife's side of the family. Her two brothers served in Vietnam. One was a helicopter pilot, the other a West Point graduate. He went to Vietnam as a lieutenant and then went back again for a second tour as a company commander. Learned a lot from him, learned a lot from my wife's sister's husband, who was a combat medic in Vietnam, served in the Army for 22 years. So the Vietnam veterans in my family get a lot of credit from me for opening my eyes and waking me up to what was going on with our Vietnam veterans coming home from war and what they endured during the battle. I was 18 years old in 1973. So that was the end of combat operations in Vietnam. And then 2 years later, on April 30th, 1975, we pulled out of Saigon for the final moment. So last night, I had the opportunity to play another great concert that I do every year called Rockin' for the Troops up in Cantini Park. And, oh, you've been there? Great. We rocked for the troops last night. Yeah, we had a good time. But I wanted to take the moment last night to talk about our Vietnam veterans and to talk about the importance of remembering what they went through and honoring them. I know, how many Vietnam veterans do we have here today? Raise your hand. Let's give all our Vietnam veterans a big round of applause and a big welcome home. God bless you guys. And today we're here to salute our Vietnam veterans. We salute all our veterans always, but today it's kind of a special day. As Tom Liberta is a friend of mine going back to when we met in the 80s. And it was through work that I was doing with Vietnam veterans, local Vietnam veterans groups back in the 80s up in Chicago. And I had received this education from my wife's brothers and her sister's husband about what they had gone through when they came home from war, what it was like for them to come home to a divided nation and a nation that didn't care for them and appreciate them. And I learned greatly, a great education back then. And I got involved with some local Vietnam veterans groups. And that's how I met Tom, through this play that some of you may have heard about, and some of you may have even seen some of our Vietnam veterans. It was a play written by a group of Vietnam veterans that they had performed in Los Angeles based on their experiences. And every night, 8 times a week, 8 shows a week, they would get up and relive their experiences on stage, and they would teach the audience what they had gone through and what it was like to be a veteran coming home from that war to a nation that didn't appreciate them. And so I had a great education not only from my wife's brothers and the Vietnam veterans in my family, but also through the veterans who created this play. And I had the opportunity to do this play as a director at my theater in Chicago called Steppenwolf. And we created a program there during that play where we would let, I just wanted veterans to come and see it. And so we gave free tickets out. And, you know, Tom being the, you know, very frugal person with his money heard about free tickets and he showed up. He showed up. He showed up more than once, I think, for those free tickets. But that was a great thing because that connected us, and that's how I ended up here in Lansing. When Tom got the idea to create this memorial and started working with some of the guys here who were involved in the creation of this memorial, I was just played a small part in trying to help him raise the money and raise some awareness to try to get it done. I've always been proud of that because this is part of the early history of my getting involved with veterans locally here, and then through playing Lieutenant Dan, getting involved with our wounded because I played the wounded soldier, and then of course after September 11th, when we were attacked on September 11th, I just felt called to go out and try. Oh, there's the music. I just felt kind of called to go out there and try to do what I can, you know, what I could for the active duty deploying to Iraq and Afghanistan, and to try to ensure that what happened to our Vietnam veterans when they came home from war was not going to happen to our Afghanistan and Iraq veterans. I think one of the hard lessons that we learned from Vietnam is how not to treat our service members. So our Vietnam veterans taught us a lot, and they certainly educated me. And so I've always been privileged to have played a small part in our memorial here in Lansing. I think educating our young people as to the cost of freedom and sacrifices that are made is critical. And these local small town memorials that honor their fallen are critical to ensuring that future generations understand what sacrifice and service is and what the cost of our precious freedom really is. We can never do enough for those who serve our country and sacrifice for our freedom. So we have to make sure that we continue to honor our fallen. Tom was very gracious and kind to put my brother-in-law, Lieutenant Colonel Boyd McCanna Harris, on this wall, his name on this wall. He, as I said, served 2 tours, and unfortunately when he was a lieutenant colonel in 1983, he got cancer and he passed away. And Tom knew how close he was to me and how much I had learned from him, and so Tom, I always feel blessed that you paid tribute to him right here in Lansing, Illinois. You put him on? Well, you can. I didn't know that. Well, Tom just told me that my brother-in-law, Jack Treese, a combat medic who unfortunately died of cancer in October, was just added to this wall. And thank you, Jack. It's that kind of generosity of our veterans that keeps inspiring me every single day to try to go out and do what I can. And that's why I created the Gary Sinise Foundation. It's to honor and serve the men and women who serve our country, our first responders who protect our cities, and to do whatever we can to ensure that they are never forgotten. So one of the things that I'm here today to do is to present a check to the Lansing Veterans Memorial for $15,000 to help restore the memorial right here. And I encourage the people, the community of Lansing, you know, it's a small town. I understand there's about 28,000 people in Lansing. Obviously, you've got a lot of veterans from this community that have served. As I said, these memorials in small towns all across America are so critical to educating the local communities as to what that community sacrificed in defense of our freedom. So somebody like me who's on television and that kind of thing, coming to Lansing, somebody would ask why I would do that. Well, because it's important to ensuring that we are defended and protected by future generations. It's America's families who defend us all. And I thank all of America's families, and I thank the families here in Lansing, Illinois, for everything you've done to defend our freedom. Thank you, and God bless America.